Welcome back to another edition of the Magic Latest Podcast, a podcast where we discuss everything Orlando Magic basketball. I'm your host, Jalon Dixon. Today we got a couple of things to get into, but before we get started, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that post notification bell so you always know we're dropping new videos. Hit that hype button on YouTube so we can continue to grow the Magic Latest family. And also, shout out to the sponsor of today's podcast, Kalshi, your sports stock market where you can make trades on things like who you believe will be the 2027 NBA champion. More on Kalshi a little bit later on. Let's go ahead and get right into today's episode. And not necessarily a jam-packed episode for you guys today, but a couple of things that I thought were good to hit on the head as far as talking about the Orlando Magic going into the weekend. I got a little bit more of an interesting episode for Friday that's a little bit more in-depth, but just some key points that I want to touch on over the course of this episode that I think should be entertaining nonetheless. Let's start off with the Orlando Magic's pick in the second round with the 60th pick in Isaiah Nelson, who was picked up via a three-team trade between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Washington Wizards. As far as the Orlando Magic trying to also get some cash considerations in there, just got to throw it out there. And Isaiah is essentially your prototypical Orlando Magic pickup. 6'8", 7'2" with shoes on. Comes out of the AAC, played for USF, University of South California, South California, University of South Florida, where he averaged 15.9 points, 9.6 rebounds, and 1.6 steals, along with 1.4 blocks per game. Averaged 4 offensive rebounds per game, in his first season in the AAC. Huge thing to take in consideration there. He shot 56.1% from the floor, 63% from 2-point range specifically. Bad three-point shooter, obviously. Only took 49 three-pointers in his entire, tenure last season. Hit 7 of them. Not great. But quite frankly, let's be honest, man. Let's be honest. Big time rebounder, high energy motor, offensive rebounder, feels like a guy that they essentially grabbed to potentially be a Goga Batadze / Mo Wagner replacement. Potentially. But sounds like a guy, lives around the rim, sounds like a guy who kind of screams play finisher to you. Sounds like a guy who could help us as far as offensive and defensive glass is concerned. Something we do tend to dominate, but it wouldn't hurt to be better, especially on the offensive glass particularly. Again, I mentioned this when I talked about these prospects earlier on. Now, he wasn't one of the guys that was on my radar. Of all the guys that I've listed as potential second-round picks for the Magic, this is not one of them. But quite frankly, he just fits the mold of what the Orlando Magic tend to draft, so I'm not surprised. Do I think he's going to be an impact player out the gate? Probably not. But could he be a good fit down the line? Could he fit in some spots where maybe if the Orlando Magic are having some injury concerns, maybe he could step in and kind of let his motor be what helps him kind of burn some minutes on the floor? Yeah, I look at the Jamal Cain situation. Again, that was a guy who situationally this year got thrown into circumstances where he ended up starting playoff games. I keep harping on this because it goes to show you that because the Orlando Magic do not have too many moves they can make on the margins, they're going to need guys to step up. Is Isaiah Nelson going to play very much next season? I don't think so. Honestly, based off of his profile, I don't know if he's any better than Noah Pinda right now. I think if we're talking similar archetypes, I'd rather Noah Pinda play. But at the same time, I think that, he could be an interesting fit. He could be a pretty decent small ball 5. And again, he feels like that archetype of like what you get out of Mo Wagner or like what you would get out of like a Goga Batadze type of player. It is what it is. You guys give me your thoughts on him. You guys let me know if there was anybody else in the second round around that draft pick that you think would have been more interesting. Of course, the Orlando Magic traded down from 46 to end up at 60. There was definitely some more intriguing center prospects, definitely, more traditional 7-footers on the table around 46 where they initially were slotted at. Feels like a bit of a cost-cutting move just to kind of get somebody who won't end up playing for the team next year. It's fine, I guess. You guys give me your thoughts on that one. If I had to give it a grade, it'd be like a C plus. Feels just like an Orlando Magic guy you get, but not somebody that I think is gonna be like a difference maker year one by any means. And you can say that about anybody drafted in the second round. Let's just make sure we keep that clear. But I think particularly this is a player that I could see a world where like maybe he doesn't really touch the floor for the main roster next season. Next up, Jeff Weltman. You made the trade draft night to kind of get some cash considerations figured out. But are you going to make a trade that really matters? I'm intrigued to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section about this one because I've kind of been thinking this one over for a little while. Do you think it's that Jeff Weltman is. How's the best way to phrase this? And I was thinking about this last night too, and it was just like bugging me because I just wonder if this is the reality. So a lot of you guys are in the comment section calling for Jeff Weltman's job, right? A lot of you guys are in the comment section speaking on the fact that you believe that Jeff Weltman's not on the phones and really is kind of like, sleepy Jeff at the wheel. And it made me wonder, with so much concern around Jeff Weltman's future moving forward. Remember, he wasn't even guaranteed to be on this being part of this front office past this past off season, or past this past season that just finished. Does Jeff Weltman truly believe in this team as currently constructed? Or is he just afraid of what the repercussions will be if he makes a trade and finds out that it doesn't work? What I mean by that is, right? Let's say, let's say, let's say, let's say year one, you trade Jalen Suggs to go get Ja Morant. Random example here, but let's just use it as an example. You trade Jalen Suggs to get Ja Morant. But in year one, you get out of the first round, but you don't really make too much noise in the second round, and people are kind of questioning, like, for what you had to give up in Jalen Suggs plus maybe a little bit more assets in order to get Ja Morant, could you have just kept Jalen Suggs and entrusted him to Sean Sweeney, and we maybe just do the exact same thing? Where people are questioning whether or not you just made a move for the sake of making a move, or whether or not you genuinely thought that Ja Morant would be a better player for this team moving forward. Or let's say you trade Jalen Suggs. Maybe you have to do a trade for trade Jalen Suggs, or trade Wendell Carter Jr. something like that, and you end up taking a step backwards. Now people are saying, "Dang, you traded Jalen Suggs, and now we're worse." Because if you look at it statistically, Jalen Suggs, his one calling card for why he's so good on this Orlando Magic team is because lineups with Jalen Suggs on it perform very positively. We're talking +5 to +9, plus minus when Jalen Suggs is on the floor in certain lineups, especially the starting lineup. You trade Jalen Suggs, maybe you have a barely net positive offensive and defensive rating with Ja Morant on the floor, or name your player that takes the Jalen Suggs role. If you were to trade Jalen Suggs for maybe an upgrade at the big man spot, you start Anthony Black, but then you take a step backwards as far as offensive and defensive rating is concerned. Maybe you fall back and maybe you miss the playoffs, and everybody's saying, "Dang, was Jalen Suggs that important?" Jeff Weltman, what the heck? And Jeff Weltman doesn't want to be on the recipient end of that. I wonder if Jeff Weltman is just more scared of what if the trade doesn't work than if, rather than focusing on the urgency of needing to understand that this team is not all the way there yet. I hope that makes some sense. To kind of phrase it in a better way that I think is just simplistic, the question I'm asking is, do you think Jeff Weltman genuinely is not on the phones and just believes that this team as is can be a contender next season? Or do you believe that he's just afraid to get on the phone and make a trade that if it backfires could cost him his job? Because I think it's a little bit more of the latter. Because I think, and the reason why I say that is because these are homegrown talents. These are fan favorite players. These are guys that have cut their teeth in the league under the Orlando Magic umbrella. And the Orlando Magic as a franchise, despite being in a good location, are not considered, a major market. So just trading guys that want to be here, that are embracing the Orlando Magic family, embracing the Orlando Magic organization. When you say something like, we may have to trade the heart and soul of the team in Jalen Suggs, if that doesn't work out, your job's probably on the chopping block. Like, you can't just trade Jalen Suggs for financial savings. You got to trade Jalen Suggs with the idea that we're trying to go win a chip. Because if you trade Jalen Suggs to take a step back, you can alienate your fan base. You can alienate your fan base into thinking you're not serious about winning. You can alienate your fan base into thinking about that, yeah, maybe you're not serious about making this team better. Because would I rather have Jalen Suggs, or would I rather have Jalen Suggs, or would I rather have three random guys added to the bench to flesh out our bench? I love the idea of depth, but give me Jalen Suggs. Give me Jalen Suggs unless we know we're getting bona fide contributors right now. Not some, we going to save some money by getting a couple of young players that, got some pretty solid contract. No. I don't think you could just trade Jalen Suggs for pennies. I know his contract isn't great, but it's also beneficial because of the fact that it's a descending contract. I think you should be able to get multiple players for Jalen Suggs. I'm not saying you trade Jalen Suggs to go get Jalen Suggs by himself can't get a star. But you're not trading Jalen Suggs for the player equivalent of cash considerations. Right? And I wonder if that's something that's concerning Jeff Weltman. I don't think that's enough. You guys let me know in the comment section down below how you guys feel. I don't want to keep talking in circles about it because it's one of those things that I still kind of am wrapping my head around. But I just wonder, to kind of close off this section into something that I think will make a little bit more sense. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you think, how much do you believe in the Orlando Magic as contenders next season? 1 being, I don't think they got a shot in hell, versus 10, which is like, I think they could hoist the Larry O'Brien trophy next year. In the Eastern Conference, with the landscape of the Eastern Conference the way it's heading right now, remember, lottery reform, no more tanking, at least for the next 3 years, presumably. So all these teams are kind of going for it. How much of a contender do you think the Orlando Magic are? Right now, I'm going to put them at like a cool 6, maybe a 7. Just saying. And I just wonder if that's enough. In this window that the Orlando Magic have, with the contracts they have on their roster, how expensive this team is being a 6-7 on the championship caliber scale in the Eastern Conference, is that enough? Is that enough where like maybe you just get the right break as far as how the bracket shakes out, and you lean that, and that's just enough to maybe put them in a spot where maybe they're playing in the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe they're playing in the NBA Finals next year? I just don't know, man. I just don't know. Before we move on to the second half of the podcast, I want to shout out the sponsor of today's podcast, Kalshi, your sports stock market, where you can make trades on anything from who you believe will be the NBA champion of next season to so much more. If you open up the good old Kalshi app right now, good old green app, man, and you go to the search bar where you go to see what they do in the NBA, they have a section called 2027 Pro Basketball Champion. And look, man, I know my worries about the Orlando Magic, but check this out. Orlando Magic at 2% right now to be the NBA champions of the 2027 season. Drop $100 down, $4,679. I told y'all there's a world where the Orlando Magic can mess around and win your boy enough money to hold him down on some rent for a couple of months. Hey, Orlando Magic, if y'all could do that for me, I know I got to wait a year to see it happen, but I'll gladly be patient. Just letting y'all know it would be a dope situation where if I drop $100 down right now, I could be in a situation where, hey, man, I could be Gucci. If you're one of them people, and you're a big baller, and you really believe in this Orlando Magic team next season under Sean Sweeney, I just typed the number in for just for jokes, just to see what it would look like. You drop $1,000 down, drop a band down on the Orlando Magic win the championship next year. $46,790. I'm saying that's somebody's mortgage. That's the start of somebody's mortgage. That's half somebody's mortgage. Orlando Magic, you got to hold up your end of the bargain, though, at the end of the day, bro. If I drop a band down on you, $46,000 change a man's life. Change a man's life in one season. Paulo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Desmond Bain, where you at? I'm just saying. Nonetheless, right? Download the Couchy app today and use promo code FanArcBasketball. In all seriousness, download the app today. Use promo code FanArcBasketball to get $10 when you trade $10. Something even as simple as dropping $10 on the Orlando Magic right now would be a $467 payout. You add that other $10 you get with the promo code to be $20. $20 down is nearly $1,000, $935 payout just for betting on just for placing a trade, on your favorite team to win the championship next season. Kind of a dope trade-off and another reason to be invested in the team over the course of the next 82 games. And, of course, anything and everything they do over the course of this summer. Shout out to Kalshi once again, KALSHI, promo code FanArcBasketball to let them know we sent you. Now let's go ahead and move into the second half of the pod. So, this graphic is incorrect because the blockbuster news happened in the middle of me putting together stuff for recording this podcast. And, of course, in the middle of me kind of getting stuff done, LaMelo Ball was traded. So let's just go ahead and talk about it in the context of the Orlando Magic. Would he have been a good fit for this Orlando Magic team? Of all the names that have probably come up for the Orlando Magic as potential point guard replacements for Jalen Suggs, LaMelo Ball might be the worst one of it, just given the fact that although he brings some real upside offensively, you worried about what kind of step back defensively you take in exchange for those two, because he has the archetype of someone that could be an above average defender. But the play style and habits of somebody who has been quite underwhelming. I mean, there's been years where, LaMelo Ball has been on par with like Damian Lillard and Trae Young for like the worst perimeter defender in the league. I don't necessarily think he fits. He's going to the Minnesota Timberwolves, by the way, for those who are sleeping under a rock. I think that's an interesting situation for them as somebody that needs another shot creator. It goes to show you that Kyrie Irving clearly must truly be off the table. The trade was Naz Reid and 3 future firsts. So maybe there's a little bit of savings there as well on the Hornets side of things. Could they still be in the Jaylen Brown sweepstakes? It'll have to see based off of what happens with Rudy Gobert and how willing they are to move Rudy Gobert now. With Naz Reid being moved, their only other center on the roster, I believe, is Johan Berenger, which maybe indicates that they're just willing to hold on to Rudy Gobert moving forward. Looking at the Orlando Magic side of things again, I don't necessarily know if he would have fit for this team. I think he would have been an exciting player. I think he would have definitely helped our offensive rating. I think if you go based off of the ways that the Orlando Magic thrived last season on the offensive end, they did a lot of that in transition. Obviously, LaMelo Ball definitely helps push the pace in that way. That would have helped in a real way as far as being able to get more transition basketball going. He does add more three-point volume. Of course, LaMelo Ball was one of the top 11 players as far as three-point volume last season. I mentioned that on a previous podcast talking about Desmond Bain. I believe that LaMelo Ball was top 5, and then you had Colin Knippel and Brandon Miller as his other two, co-players on that Hornets team that were in that boat as well. So that would have been a huge addition as another high-volume shooter that did shoot around 36+% from beyond the arc last season. And quite frankly, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Good trade for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I have real questions about what this means for the Charlotte Hornets moving forward. I guess it shows that they really believe in Colin Knippel. I think it means that they really do believe in Brandon Miller. Maybe it does mean that they're going to lean into the idea of retaining Kobe White, which it sounds like is one of their primary beliefs, is that their goal, or one of their primary goals, I should say, reportedly is to retain Kobe White. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, man. I think that the Orlando Magic, I think they dodged the bullet. I think him going to the Western Conference is a benefit because it might be a situation where maybe the Charlotte Hornets take, 2 steps back to get 1 step forward by kind of getting an idea now of what Colin Knippel can be as like a number 1 ball handler as opposed to like the second or third guy. I think there's some big questions about Charlotte, which again, you know, makes them an interesting team to keep tabs on next season. As the Orlando Magic, again, I think that maybe, yeah, LaMelo, when you look at that price, Orlando doesn't have the juice to squeeze because, sure, we could have traded Wendell Carter Jr. and first round capital, except for the part where we don't really have the first round capital. So instead, you probably end up having to trade like Anthony Black and Tristan da Silva and stuff to fill out the dividends. And I just don't know if the Orlando Magic should even have considered the idea of doing that, quite frankly. So I'm kind of glad they didn't. Again, shout out to the Timberwolves. Reports also indicate that they've been interested in going after LaMelo Ball for the last 2 years now. Wow, shocking to me. Um, so very similar to the Miami Heat chasing after Giannis Antetokounmpo and finally finishing the story. I guess the Minnesota Timberwolves have been going after LaMelo Ball for 2 years and finally got to finish the story as well. Last but not least, I think this is going to be my favorite section of the podcast today, which is reading you guys' comments from last episode and responding to a few of them because I think that, we haven't done this as frequently as I would like, and I always love interacting with you guys. We're going to start from the bottom and move our way up. Boss Business 88137 says, I wouldn't be surprised if the Orlando Magic shocked the NBA draft tonight and went out and drafted Mickey Mouse. That's how dumb the front office and GM of Orlando is. Well, they didn't get Mickey Mouse. We got ourselves a USF Bull, though. We'll see. We'll see how that whole thing goes. Berto the Magician, he said, "Let's cut to the chase, J Dog. I just had my black cup. I just had my black cup of coffee. I'm gonna say what every Magic fan has been thinking. Jeff needs to grow a pair of cojones, trade Suggs for one of the first round rookies of this draft, and for draft capital, and go make an aggressive offer for Kobe White, projected around 20 to 25 million a year." So you're saying that they should trade Suggs to get a rookie and some significant savings, and then maybe put themselves in position to financially go after somebody like Kobe White. Man, I'm not gonna lie to you, that would be a lot to ask for from Jeff Weltman. And I think you're probably right to a certain degree, but I also told you guys, man, I don't know if I love the idea of just trading Jalen Suggs for a box of rocks. Excuse me, I just don't know. I think if you're gonna trade Jalen Suggs for multiple players, I think you need to go get players that like can contribute. Like legit contribute day one. Like I would love a trade where you could get like Klay Thompson and Max Christie for Jalen Suggs. Is that like a crazy deal? Not necessarily, but Klay Thompson adds automatic floor spacing and is a guy who, had real volume as a three-point shooter and of course shoots 40% from beyond the arc. And Max Christie is somebody who's an improved three-point shooter, showed that last season that he can be an improved three-point shooter, can put pressure on the rim and has real versatility as a defender on the perimeter. Like I like that as two guys that would fit on the roster. You elevate Anthony Black to the starting point guard position. Max Christie can, be somebody who you bring off the bench. Klay Thompson can be somebody interchangeably that can play next to the starting lineup, or it can be somebody that can be like a flame throwing 3-point shooter off the bench for you. It's not crazy, but it's two guys who fit needs. You still get versatile defense from Max Christie, and you get real floor spacing, reliable floor spacing from somebody like Klay Thompson. Or, I mean, shoot, honestly, I would love the idea if, like, you could, like, take the momentum of the fact that Derek Lively has been, like, injured the last couple of seasons and maybe buy him as, like, quote-unquote damaged goods and get him for, like, a low ball price and you get, like, Klay Thompson and Derek Lively. I know we can't because I just do not think that the Mavericks are going to give up on Derek Lively just yet. But, bro, that would be kind of dope. Tony B 1571, bro, your fake attention grabbing photos are too much. I'm out. Berto came to the rescue and said it's not him. The network he's under is in charge of it. He's addressed this months ago. He doesn't control or have say in it. Tony B responded by saying, I was unaware of this and maybe a little unfair, but then his network needs to do better because he has good content. Jones says it's YouTube. That's what they all do to get clicks. Berto, I appreciate you for coming to the rescue on that one. I hate having to kind of readdressing it a million times. And Tony B, shout out to you for being able to come back to the comment after the fact, an hour later from after Berto responded, and actually like kind of own up to it. I appreciate that as well. Because quite frankly, don't get me wrong, I'm in it for the content, and I've said this on the podcast before, and I'll continue to reiterate it, man. I'm in it for the content. I'm in it for trying to build a community here on the Magic Latest podcast. I built this from the ground up. There's a couple of podcasts here on the Fan Art program that have had multiple hosts. Shoot, if you guys are interested in other content outside the Magic Latest podcast, I also do content for the Bucks Latest podcast as well. I've had more enjoyment to a lesser degree doing the Magic Latest podcast because it's something I got to build myself from the very first day, zero videos versus the Bucks Latest podcast. I believe I was their third, maybe even fourth host, just due to schedule constraints and things of that nature. But it's been a good time covering them, especially post Giannis Antetokounmpo trade as well. Um, but at the end of the day, man, like this is a community I've been able to build with you guys from the ground up. Guys like Berto the Magician have been here for a minute. A handful of other great people have come through this comment section. Quentin White is somebody who also has been in the comment section a ton. There's more that I just am not listing out right now because man, there's a lot of you that have been rocking with me since day one. But I appreciate that. I hope you guys understand that at the end of the day, the thumbnail doesn't really matter as much to me. I know on the YouTube algorithm side, thumbnail can mean a ton. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm here to give you guys quality content. It's why part of me like kind of hated the first half of this podcast, having to talk about a second round pick and Jeff Weltman not making any moves because like we all know that those two things unfortunately don't have a ton of impact. But that's just the news with the Orlando Magic right now. We got to hit those news points. That's why I also include this mini mailbag because I love hearing what you guys have to say. Um, but thank you, Berto the Magician, for coming to the rescue. Thank you, Tony B, for being able to come back and realize from that comment from Berto the Magician that, like, at the end of the day, dude, I do try to put together good content. And, the rest of it to get clicks and stuff like that, either we get them or we don't. But we're trying to build the Magic Latest family. We're trying to build a legit, you know, community over here. Do I have a couple of Magic podcasts on YouTube that I got on a little bit of a hit list, Kobe Bryant style, where like if you got more subscribers than me, I'm trying to outdo you. I'm trying to give you better content. I'm trying to give better information. I'm trying to give more personality than those podcasts. Yes, I am. I got a couple podcasts. You guys probably know the podcast too. There's a couple of these Orlando Magic podcasts here on YouTube that have more subscribers than me. There's a couple of them that don't have more subscribers than I do right now that did once upon a time. And I'm scratching them off the list because guess what? We're just building one of the biggest Orlando Magic communities on the YouTube sphere, and we're going to continue to do that, man. We're going to continue to do that one subscriber at a time, one family member at a time as we continue to kind of grow this community that we got going. Hector Rivera says all these rookies are on a different timeline. None of these guys would see the floor other than summer league. Get creative and get real veteran players in here that would actually contribute now. I mean, I feel you to a certain degree. I just do feel like with some of the picks that the Orlando Magic did end up giving up in the Desmond Bain trade, I do think Cedric Howard could play right away. Um, I do think that Kareem Lopez or Cameron Carr or LeBaron Philon or Joshua Jefferson. I think those are all guys that definitely could have contributed day one. But I do agree with you that more of a veteran presence is kind of where the Orlando Magic are right now, and I think that's kind of what they need. Boiling Point HVAC says Kane could be better than Ji, and he's not hurt every other day. Kane? Kane. Who are you referring to? I'm trying to think of who you're referring to. Because last episode, I know we talked about DeAndre Ayton. I know we talked about Jared Allen. Let me know in the comment section down below who you mean by Kane. I'm not sure if you're referring to somebody that I might have talked about last episode that's just not coming to mind right now. Um, But yeah. Also, by the way, shout out to all you guys: Quentin White, Tim Turner, Dikembe Wright, Julian Sayez, all with the hands up from last episode where we were talking about the idea of making a big time trade, man. We were talking about a couple of ideas for moves that again could involve like, hey, maybe you just send Jonathan Isaac and Tristan Da Silva out for DeAndre Ayton and Dalton Connect. Or maybe you decide to just pair, you know, Jonathan Isaac, Tristan Da Silva, and one other player, and let's go get Jared Allen, right? Like, but hey, man, I think this Orlando Magic team should really consider taking a big swing of some capacity. Can you guys believe that there's only about 24 to 48 more hours before the Orlando Magic just might end up waiving Jonathan Isaac and not getting anything out of it but a little bit of cap relief? Oh, that hurts my heart. That hurts my heart, man. Hurts my heart a ton. American Brew 21 says trade 46 pick for Ty Jerome, good 3-point shooter. I'm going to tell you this right now. There's no way in the world that Ty Jerome is only worth a second round pick right now. Listen to some of these podcasts out here that talked about Ty Jerome last season. Ty Jerome might be worth like a solid first round pick right now. So serious. Ty Jerome might be worth a serious first round pick. Not like a lottery pick. It had to be definitely like lottery protected. But Ty Jerome is kind of worth like a real first round pick right now. Real first round pick, guys. Don't sleep. I love the idea of Ty Jerome, by the way. I mentioned Ty Jerome as a name when we did our big breakdown for players that I thought would be interesting to grab. Of course, Tyus Jones was on that list as well. Jalon was wrong. Jalon was wrong. I know. I messed up. But the theory of Tyus Jones was there. I'm just saying. But Ty Jerome was definitely the better player last year once he got healthy. Martin Smith said the Jared Allen trade is my favorite, then Isaiah Joe and Malik Monk. So definitely was not super crazy about the DeAndre Ayton trade, huh? I don't blame you. Not my favorite either, but I'm just saying if you get something for Jonathan Isaac versus nothing, DeAndre Ayton and Dalton Connect for Jonathan Isaac, not the worst thing to get in back return for a player that's not even going to play for you. And quite frankly, like, maybe Dalton Connect's shot creation that he showed back at Tennessee could get a little bit more favor on a second unit for Orlando than in a situation with the Lakers where they didn't really have any other real shot creation on the second unit around Dalton Connect that could help kind of create space for him. I don't know. I like the Jared Allen trade. I don't know if it's my favorite. I would say it's my second favorite though. My favorite would be Isaiah Joe. Jared Allen would be second. Malik Monk would be third. And I think that DeAndre Ayton, Dalton Connect, that's kind of like a wild card for me. Like, I don't even know how realistic that is because I don't know how much of a savings the Lakers are really going for. Now, they're signing Austin Reeves to $40 million a year. So maybe they might need the savings. But if they're not willing to do that, am I supposed to be mad at them? No. But it seemed like they're not really super high on Dalton Connect. And it sounds like they want Jackson. It sounds like Luka Doncic particularly is pushing for Jackson Hayes. And they could be a team that tries to bring in Mark Williams. JJ Redick didn't seem very excited about DeAndre Ayton throughout the course of that season. Real roller coaster ride there. So you get kind of a buy low on DeAndre Ayton and Dalton Connect for essentially nobody, and Jonathan Isaac, who didn't really play for us last year and wouldn't be playing for us next year if we waive and stretch him. So that's more of a wild card trade that I think could just be that could be realistic, but highly unlikely. Last but not least, Next Level says, "Yeah, Magic, great job. Please cut him so he can sign with the San Antonio Spurs and win a championship like so many other former Magic players. This organization doesn't know what talent is. They develop players who go on and win a championship while they entertain fans and not try to win." I'm assuming you're talking about cutting and letting Jonathan Isaac go to a team like the San Antonio Spurs. Um, I mean, he could be an interesting fit for San Antonio as a backup big. Um, that would suck. I do think Orlando is not the greatest at developing talent. I've said this before. I think they've been able to rest off the laurels of being able to just draft really high. And when the pick is not obvious, they're not very good at drafting, in my personal opinion. Um, I had a live nightmare in the middle of the first round the other night where I reminded myself that this team took Chuma Okeke. I wasn't even like really tapped into the Orlando Magic back then, to be quite frank with you guys. And even I knew that was crazy because that was one of the first years that I was really locked into college basketball. And I knew that Chuma Okeke had a broken leg going into the NBA draft. The dude was at NBA draft night with a boot on. Had a crazy flashback where that was like a reality that actually happened. And now that I cover the Orlando Magic 5 days a week, I have to remember that the Orlando Magic did stuff like that. I have to remember that the Orlando Magic took Cole Anthony over Tyrese Maxey. I have to remember that the Orlando Magic have constantly put themselves in positions where you question, like, yo, it BPA is really like it's a great way to draft when you're a bad team, but when you're a team that's trying to progressively get better, once you go from being like bad to talented, you got to start drafting for the focus of like reaching that next pinnacle, not just staying good, but like getting better. This is one of those big worries that I have about the Chicago Bulls too, and I'm so glad that they finally hit the reset button. I've said for the longest time that the Chicago Bulls have been able to get away with this idea of being just good enough to put butts in seats because Bulls fans are going to go to the United Center regardless. So just good enough to put butts in seats, but always bad enough to never really be in the mix for anything valuable, right? They made the playoffs once in like the 4 to 5 year tenure of Billy Donovan. Might be a little bit, yeah, 4 to 5 year tenure of Billy Donovan, maybe a little bit longer. Made the postseason one time, and that year it felt like felt like just a magical season. Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan saying they're the best duo in the league. DeMar DeRozan, the clutch player of the year before the clutch player of the year award was invented. It felt like a year from the sky. But other than that, they were just always good enough to be good enough. And I think I kind of have to second this comment to a certain degree. I wonder if that's just where the Orlando Magic kind of find themselves right now. I really hope that Sean Sweeney can turn that around as well. Like, I don't want this team to just be good enough to be good enough. Oh, yep, we always make the playoffs and we get to the first round and then we're bounced out in the first round. But hey, at least we made the postseason, which shows we're somewhere in the mix as one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. Do you want to be good or do you want to be great? And that's why I want to end the podcast. Do you want to be good or do you want to be great? This Magic front office is the determining factor around whether or not this Orlando Magic team can answer that question. Do you want to be good or do you want to be great? This Orlando Magic front office is the determining factor to that. I think Paolo's good enough. I think Fran's good enough. I think Desmond Bane's good enough. I think that's a good trifecta to lead this team off. But do you want to be good or do you want to be great? If you want to be good, keep the team as is. I think it's good enough for us to make the first round of the playoffs. I think it's good enough for us to maybe get out of the first round for the first time. But I think if you want to be great, you might have to really look at your roster and ask yourself, like, yo, can we afford to avoid making the big swing? Because I don't think you can. And I've been wishy-washy about this throughout the course of the offseason, but, for the most part, as much as I think that Sean Sweeney can turn this team around, and I still do genuinely believe that, there's just still a part of me that ankles around from, the back half of the year where we all kind of were pounding the table and saying, like, we want to see change. So there's like a part of me that really believes in Sean Sweeney. It's like a 60-40 split. 60% is like Sean Sweeney might just be enough. But there's a 40% of me that's still hanging around that's like, yo, I was banging the table at the end of the year saying I want to see change with this team. And I don't know if a coaching change is just enough for me. I don't know if it is. You guys let me know in the comment section down below. You want to be good or you want to be great, man? You want to be good or you want to be great? You guys let me know in the comment section down below what you guys want to be. You guys let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think the Orlando Magic should do to be great next year. With all that being said, it's been another edition of the Magic Latest Podcast. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that post notification bell so you always know we're dropping new videos. Hit that hype button on YouTube so we can hit that algorithm. Shout out to Kalshi once again for sponsoring the pod. I'll see you guys next time.